everybody, and welcome to this Interviewasaurus with my guest today. I'm very lucky to have a special guest with me, Sina. Now, I can't even pronounce your last name, Sina. It's Azira?
You really got that wrong. Azad.
Azad. I just never used it. But Sina's been around the industry like forever, as long as I've been around in it. You've seen a lot, you've been a lot. So I'm really happy to sit down and talk to you about your journey through how you got into the industry and what you actually do now. So quick introduction for yourself, just say who you are and what you do. That would be great.
My name is Sina Azad. I'm a MoCap specialist and animator. I started off. I'm working towards being a generalist actually right now, because I find that I've got varying interests across everything, and becoming too specialized can get a little bit boring. So. Yeah, so I love 3D graphics. I mean, I love computer graphics in general, just anything that's, colorful, moving, interesting. That's probably one of the reasons I got in. The other thing is about, making stuff. So without getting your hands too dirty, because you don't have to touch anything except a mouse. So that's pretty much
cool.
me. So my main bread and butter is motion capture and animation.
Oh, cool. All right, let's just wind back quick. So where did your journey for 3D start off with? Were you like getting into geeking out on mocap films, or were you geeking out on films, or were you games when you started off? But what got you into getting into the industry?
My interest in the industry was, I had a friend of mine that went and did the Swinburne animation course back in the 80s, and we made some stop motion together, and that was awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So really, that was like on a 16mm Bolex camera. The bad old days before any computers. And then I remember going with him to like a computer graphics little like conference or something it was, and it was just when the Pixar lamp animation came out, and there was just all of that, and but Maya came in on a Silicon Graphics workstation that used to be worth $1 million, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you were very much at the beginning of, like you said, when Maya, you actually had to buy the hardware to be able to run the software. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I've got no chance of getting onto that train, especially being in Brisbane. So so then I did engineering, and tended to hit a recession and didn't really work as an engineer. Started making stuff. Went into wrought iron furniture making. I love making stuff, really. That's one of the reasons I did engineering. And then and I got sick of blowing dust out of my nose. It was like, oh, ow, it's like a day is a dirty day when you got to make stuff, and it's like very dirty. And I was like, I want to make stuff but not have to suffer. So
clean my fingernails. Oh no.
And then like you could get into Maya and Max by then. So I did. I pretty much tried out a version of Max R3 or something it was called back then. And I started learning how to model and stuff, and started off as a 3D modeler. And my first job was doing guns for games, I think.
Beautiful.
Guns for a game trailer. Yeah, did a sniper rifle and a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, Max would be very good for that, especially like you said, you're coming from an engineering background, being very fastidious about how you construct things. I know Max is really good for that. So your transition wasn't too hard. You kind of, once you picked it up, you understood how it all worked.
It's just a lot of tutorials, isn't it? The good thing is you can, when I started, there weren't so many YouTube tutorials and such, or even, there were just, I just remember going through books, Like,
because now, like you said, online tutorials, you can find so much on YouTube now where there's a big catalog of stuff you can go through step by step. But I remember where there wasn't that much stuff, you'd get the volume about that thick of actually going through the book.
Yeah,
So,
step by step.
Yeah. What does this button do? Oh, it's on page 356.
Yeah.
Okay, it's that one.
Yeah, and you yell at the computer. I remember just yelling at the computer. Why doesn't it work? Why doesn't this not work? It's supposed to work. You tell me why it doesn't work. The best thing to learn is when, as you probably know, when things go weird. Sometimes it's not you; it's the software just about to crash. And you can spend half an hour trying to make things work, and everything's just weirding out.
Yeah. Hopefully you've saved a backup, and you just go, you know what, it's time to reboot. Just start again.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually go through, because like you said, you went through the books. You didn't actually go through a formal schooling to actually get into, like, when you started off. No, cool.
No, not really. There wasn't much of that around. I know a lot of the people I started with had finished industrial design. So and things like that, like there was no formal 3D courses like 3D animation or any of that. Like, a lot of the people just hadn't done courses, like after like maybe a few years into working. Those people who came out of uni started, like, popping up. Like the uni courses and stuff. Like, I mean, that's why it was like hardly any way of getting into it, because there wasn't any courses for it much. I don't know. Or maybe I didn't know about it. So it was a weird time. It was like, as the beginning of it all. In a way.
Yep. Because you got into, so that's modeling. So was that modeling for game? Like you said, that was modeling for games. Brisbane was very, like, a big central hub for games. At a certain point.
I moved to Sydney by then. Yeah. It was actually modeling for game trailers. Yeah. At Plastic Wax. I actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
So you had to escape Brisbane to find work.
Yeah. Well, I was actually escaping Adelaide. Weirdly enough, I went to Adelaide for romantic reasons, and then, and then ran away to Sydney.
Okay. So once you hit Sydney, because I know, Sydney's really cool. How long were you kind of wrapped up in Sydney for?
I lived in Sydney for 11 years, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah. That was while you were in Sydney, that was then when you kind of got wrapped up in getting exposed to motion capture?
Yeah. Well, when I started as a modeler, a modeler and sort of technical animator. It was great because a few of the jobs just required like making like visemes for faces, like expressions, and then pretty much dialing them in to animate the faces. So it was really fun jobs, making all the different, frowns, smiles, for human faces, which is like quite a daunting job in some ways. And then kind of just, dialing them in and animating the face in the trailers that I was working on. And then the motion capture guy that was at Plastic Wax was leaving to go to another company or overseas. And being a tech-loving sort of engineering type, I was like, oh, wow, 16 cameras connected to a box, lots of wires coming out. I like to look at that.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm in heaven. This is geeking out. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So then I was like, I'll do motion capture if you want. And actually nobody else wanted to do it because as I realized later, it was kind of you know, it's there's a lot of data processing. Like it can be really boring, like because you got to clean the data, you know, and people just, it's one of the jobs no one wants to do that I still can go and do for people, you know, like if you know, they go like, come and do the cleanup because no one wants to do it. And I go, okay, I'll do it. Give me the money. I'll do the cleanup. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, like especially like you've got. No, I'm going to touch on this subject because I love it as an interesting point. Because you said, you know, you were in Sydney for 11 years. Were you at the same company for 11 years?
No, 8.
8.
8 years.
Yeah. Because a lot of people now, you know, me included, you know, you run from contract to contract and you're never at one particular location for very long. So it's almost pretty unusual now to actually find someone who's been at, you know, one spot for any like period of time. So being inside a company for 8 years is like pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty good. It was just lucky, I guess, too. I think what's happened is, like I said, I think that back when I started, there weren't as many people doing the different tasks that you need to do, and people keep hold of the people they find. I mean, the studio, and also I think that there's a like a definite benefit of knowing what you're getting when you've got someone on a task.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So because every time you bring people on, it's a bit of a lucky dip.
Yeah, you know? There's a risk involved in
there's a risk. Yeah. And you can lose time, and on short run projects, it's you don't want to be losing time. You know, you got a deadline to meet. So yeah, in a lot of ways, it was times where there was burnout because you'd be working on 3 projects overlapping and all of that. So it was like, but then I think things changed a lot after the GFC, you know, global financial crisis. And that's when like our studio like ran out of jobs for like 3 months, you know, and we had to take extended leaves and all of that. And I think after that, a lot of studios, I'm thinking too, went more into the contractor, you know, way of doing things.
Yeah, I suppose because that does mitigate their risk. Because once a job's over, it's just like, oh well, you know what? Now we don't, you know, you've finished the work. We don't have to support you anymore. It is a different way of working. But back when you were there, I'm guessing it was just a small core team, and that sort of team took on everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was good. It was good and bad. The good thing too is I think if you stay in a studio for a while, you can find your own way towards things you find interesting. You know, like I went from modeling and kind of technical animation to motion capture and animation. So that was cool. Yeah.
Once you're in and actually seeing a lot more of a production point of view, you do get to kind of, I guess you put your hands out or you put your feelers out to either side of you just so you know what goes on, and it can lead you into pretty exciting sort of avenues. So motion capture for you then took you, like, is that then the whirlwind that kind of escalated your career into the stratosphere then, or has it just been a progressive thing that you've gone?
Oh yeah, the stratospheric rise of my career. Yeah. I have to say, well, in a weird way, I did it, and it wasn't. Motion capture is becoming a bigger deal as we speak, with virtual productions and all of this stuff really taking off.
Yep.
And it's very exciting times, you know, like when you and I were talking just before the interview about Unreal Engine and all of that stuff. You know, like motion capture feeds straight into Unreal Engine, and you can preview your scenes and tracking. I mean, motion capture is all about tracking. So tracking real-time feed into Unreal, streaming it into Unreal to have a look at stuff, to have your virtual cameras. You can look through your camera into the scene on the floor.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing times, But for me, I've had an interesting time. I actually moved back to Brisbane really because my mother was getting old and quite ill at the time. So I moved back just to be closer to her.
Yeah.
And then being back here, it wasn't quite a rise in my career. It was actually stepping back a bit. I was actually going to Sydney for work, so I kept going with my work in Sydney. When the projects came and it got very busy, I trained someone to take my place. So, and then as the work came in, I'd go and do maybe a week in Sydney and come back. And that was good. That was really it was kind of a little bit of a break, really. And then while I was doing that, I got a call from, it's like people that know people. Someone brought my name up, and I started working for Proxy. There's a Guy Norris is a stunt director. Has worked on Mad Max, Fury Road, all of that, and he wanted to do previs for movies. So he was like, Do you want to go to Canada and work on X-Men Dark Phoenix? Yep. Doing the previs for the stunts. And I was like, you know what? I need an adventure. Sure, let's go.
Yep. Yeah. When something like that just kind of falls in your hands, you're just like, you know what? This isn't going to come along every day.
No, that's right. I say, let's go for that. Yeah. So so I went to Canada for 3 months, and you just burnt it doing that. It was good. It was very intense. Let me just say.
Right.
Movie work is it's the standard is a 10-hour day.
Yeah. Right.
And you're lucky. And to get an easy 10-hour day. So, I remember actually working a 24-hour day. That was a big day.
That's a big day.
With the director on your shoulder for 24 hours.
No.
Imagine that. Jesus.
Yes. Yeah, no.
It's like sitting on your shoulder, pointing at your screen for 24 hours. And I'm like...
It'll move 1 pixel that way.
No, it wasn't 1 pixel. It's like make him do this, make him do that. I gotta make it was amazing though. He sat there for 24 hours and then he went and did a presentation in front of everyone, the whole studio, the whole movie studio.
Wow. Okay.
I was respect.
Yeah, right. this. Yeah, this is coming from, like you said, it's all working data. This is the best thing, which I get excited about. Like when you start talking, because we were talking before about previs, because that's my area that I kind of like working in. It is becoming like real-time previs, especially for big directors in films, is to be able to put a camera exactly where they want while the actors do what they want, but they can be in any shape or form. You might have a big monster which is using the MoCap from that character, and it runs real time. It's not like it doesn't have to be fully storyboarded out or anything. They can actually see it and direct it real time, which is very exciting. I get super excited by that. So
I know. And with VR coming in and stuff too, you can. You could actually go into the world and look at the people in, pretty much you can be a director with a camera, or you could actually be a director that's actually standing in the set that's not even built yet. you know,
Oh
with the
yeah,
characters in
yeah,
there, you know, that kind of thing. So, and then you can redesign the set if it's not working, you know, all of that stuff. It's crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Well, so have you, you know, being able to have access to that, are you seeing a lot of that being taken up yet? Are you hearing many rumors of that sort of thing, that VR directing happening yet? You know, because I know
I mean,
James Cameron's usually pretty cutting edge on that sort of stuff.
yeah, it's happening. I mean, people want it.
Yep.
Um, uh, you you it takes a fair bit of equipment and outlay to get there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I work now for Proxy, and they do virtual production on the Gold Coast. So they're 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 doing that. Yeah, they're
Yep.
doing that sort of thing when like it's not fully set up right now on the Gold Coast. They're actually still setting up, but when the movies when they're on a movie, they can potentially do that.
Oh, cool.
Have a set. You can walk in, walk around the set, have a look. Um, you know, have like we can run the action. Yeah, I mean the thing is there's two sorts. To go fully real time, you need like an optical MoCap rig, or
Right.
setup. But Proxy, because they do the stunt guys, they use the inertial systems like the like XN suits and stuff. So with those suits, you're better off pre-recording and playing it back in the set, so you can do like
Yeah.
a
Right.
quick pre-record and then replay it into the environment, and you can walk around in there. Yeah,
Yep.
it's really,
Yeah.
yeah, it is cool. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's just the different ways that a mocap suit, you know, a mocap system themselves actually process the data. So one of them, like you said, was capturing it in real time, and the other one is playing it back from recorded data. Is that
yeah,
what?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
really, it's more because optical has its axes, like the world in optical is locked.
All right.
You know, like where a person is and where they move is locked in space in the coordinates of that world. Whereas with like an inertial suit, the suits are relative. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So,
it's a bit,
so they,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. So it's
Anyway,
the way it
it's a
captures
bit
the
of that,
data is different.
really. It's like where the like you get the motion, you get what people do, but exactly they aren't locked in space. They're kind of more in a relative place. You know, each
Yep.
suit has its own little world that it lives in. So
Yep.
yeah. Anyway,
Nice. Everyone's off in their own little box in their own little world. I love
yeah. Yeah, you
it.
just got to bring them together relative to each other for it to work. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So,
I suppose that'd be the
so
the other thing I want to get your perspective on, because you do have a really good perspective on internally. You know, you're inside the film industry itself. How do you think the Australian film industry is actually managing, or you know, especially before the virus came in? Did you feel that there was a good vibe for films being coming into Australia, because the government spent a lot of money on trying to attract films now? Do you think that there's more cool films coming to Australia to be shot?
To tell you the truth, I don't know, because
Oh,
what happened? What happened was the, the company I work for now, they were overseas for about a year.
yeah.
So I don't really know what was happening here, yeah, at
Oh,
all.
okay. Yep.
So uh,
just,
yeah,
just have it.
just kind of,
Yeah.
but I mean, everyone comes home because of Corona, as you well know. You're kind of home.
Yeah.
You're sitting at home because of Corona. So yeah,
Yep.
people tend to, yeah, go
Yeah.
back to they have to, and that's I think in a lot of ways that's a good thing. Like potentially like Australia having less cases of Corona, maybe our film industry will pick up sooner than other places, and people could potentially use Australia as a place to do their shooting because we can, like, if we can get back to having crowds of people without the risk, all of that. So, and also virtual productions. I think one of the reasons virtual productions are hitting a high at the moment too, and everyone wants to get into it, is because you can do it remotely to an extent. You can set up virtual production in one corner of the world and stream it to another place, and work in a collaboration, with them. So the director can be in the US, and you can set up like a virtual production a studio here, and they can stream in and have a look at what's going on, and get going, and especially for previs, because you're actually planning stuff, so you can do your previs somewhere else, and not everyone has to be there.
Virtual production is it's another topic which, especially since Australian, we've got our NBN, which is a brilliant network for data transfer.
Yeah,
but that's sort of
I love it too, Kim. It's the best. That's why I'm on 4G, because anyway,
but yeah, it is something that, especially for like probably 5 to 10 years time, or do you think closer than that, there'll definitely be more virtual productions happening where people can collaborate on from around the globe? Because I know that with a lot of animated shots now, the last couple of shows I've worked on, we're collaborating with different studios around the world. It just seems the way it's just happening. So
for sure.
Just with how many places around Australia are actually set up for motion capture? Is there many places that do set up are set up to handle a good motion capture place?
Not so many. You'd be surprised. It's we've got there's Logimas in Brisbane, which is set up mainly because it's the Vicon, it's a Vicon dealership for the Vicon system. So and I'm a bit of a Vicon fan, because I remember I've used motion analysis and Vicon, and the thing is with motion capture, you got two sides of the market that they have to service. There's the medical side of motion capture for sports medicine and all of that. And then there's the entertainment industry side. So so a lot of motion capture started for the medical side of things, and the entertainment side just kind of came along. I started on a motion analysis system and went to Vicon. So because motion analysis, it's like this backwards compatibility with their software and all this stuff, because they need to. I won't go into it; it gets a bit boring. But Vicon was the one that kind of aimed at the entertainment industry better, and I think that's served them well to go into, the position they're in now for movies and animation and all of the stuff they do. So so the Vicon system, there's one in Brisbane, but then that's just a private one. There's the universities around have them. That's one of the main places you see motion capture systems. I think Griffith's got one, K.A.T.E's got one. So it's the universities have got them for training reasons, and also so there's that. I mean, there's Deakin in Melbourne. There's and some of those universities offer to maybe
they lease them out.
Lease them out, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. Like Plastic Wax in Sydney has got one. That's where I worked for forever. And really, there aren't many. I think Plastic Wax is the main one on the eastern side of Australia. Weirdly enough, because I mean, the other main one is Deacon, but I mean, I think it's called Fika. They're trying to what do they call it? They're like an incubator. So it started off.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's like
So
there's that. So it's surprisingly not much. I mean, not much MoCap studio space to be had, and hopefully that's going to change. I think it's the price point too. MoCap systems aren't cheap, especially like optical ones or even XN suits. You got to drop 100 grand and more to get in
just
there.
To get it over. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to get
that's no good.
Threshold. No, so anyway, it's all right. Yeah, but the thing is, I think when maybe the virtual production systems start getting more popular, that maybe motion capture floors will become more
accessible.
Or just more of them. Yeah.
Yeah. With that, I'd like to say thanks, Sina, for joining me in the dungeons that we're in. It's great to hear your story about, a different part of the industry, because like you said, there's not that many people that actually deal with MoCap. But I can see that it is going to have a huge impact, especially going forward on both games and film and entertainment. There's going to need to be those skills somewhere. So
yeah, it's a growth industry. Get into it, kids. It's a growth industry. My prediction. Anyway, no.